Hello, we are fine.
Inshallah. So let me start today.
Yes, yes.
Or should we wait more? Only 8 participants so far. I hope everyone will join today, as this is going to be the last session of our workshop 3.
Yes, yes, sir.
Did you take your lunch? Or you are in Singapore? So do you remember yesterday's session? Any question?
Yes, 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 sir.
Sir, again,
No question.
what did you say, sir?
You have question?
No. What do you say?
No question. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are starting. Yesterday, we gone through the basic of the risk management, right? And we gone through the what is risk and what is risk management is, particularly for a project environment. So in this chapter or in this session, we will have 2 chapters. We'll cover 2 more chapters today. And one is risk management structure, and the other will be how we can identify the risk. So when we talk about the structure, what do we understand actually? You know, do you remember what is the risk management process? Or what I told you yesterday, that a risk management, when we talk about risk management, we talk about risk management within our boundary, right? Within our environment. So my environment would be one type, your environment will be one type. If we have a project in Bangladesh, we will have one type of environment. If we have the project in Somalia, that would be different. And if we have this project in USA, that would be different. Even if we have the project within, even if we have 2 projects within the same city, that would also be different. I mean, the environment will be different. So as the management of the project is different, we will have the structure will be different as well. Okay. So if you have any question, kindly raise your hand using the tools in the Zoom. I just switched, I have muted everyone. So if you kindly see the screen, I have shown you the risk management structure. if you see, if you'll find that we have three different kind of, or three different line of defense. Why I am talking about the defense? You see, the first line of defense, the second line of defense, and this is the third line of defense. Okay, so we may see this is first line. Okay, because if you just simply think about this is a house, for example. If you just think about a house, this part, if you just uh, if you consider this portion as a building, okay, the first part, if you see, just for timing, think about that. At the entry of a building, you will see a guard, right? The guard or the security man. So when you enter to the house, the security will ask you why you came to this building, right? So that means every building we have a security system. So in the second line of defense, you will get a manager. For example, at ABP, when you came to our office, the security man at the bottom will ask you why you came to this building, whether you want to go, or where you want to go. That means whether you want to go to the ABP, at which floor. Here we'll ask you some main questions. So that means this is one kind of defense we are using at ABP. And then you will see, once you come to the office admission room, they will ask you why you came, right? So this is what we are talking about, the second line of defense. Okay, so when we consider this is holistically, this whole picture, holistically this whole picture as the whole thing I am showing you for a business perspective. So, and the left side, I am just talking about the AVP. So at the third portion, when you take the admission, you will get introduced with the trainers, or everyone will ask you what kind of qualification you have completed, and now you are going to be assessed. So this is how we make the risk management, right, for a businesses. So by this way, we have, you see, the second line of defense, we have the risk management, risk control, the additional point. Okay, these are the additional second line of defense. So we may have a risk control team, we may have some organization have their compliance team, and at the second line of defense we have the internal audit as well. Internal auditor usually check the processes, internal processes. That means how our businesses are going on. Okay, so if there is any compliance issues, or if there is any process issues, so internal auditor will check and will ask for the improvement. Okay, and then the third line of defense, which are employed by the shareholder in a shareholders meeting. So usually shareholders appoints the external auditor. Okay, the external auditor will check the financials, will check all the documents of an organization, to see whether everything is going in its own correct direction, right? So this is what we have a risk management structure. Okay, so we should gone through when we talk about the framework. The first portion comes with the risk management structure. If we have the proper structure, only then we can identify the best risk management capability. So we can be able to identify the further option. So if I just give you in another way example, for example, this is a foundation, okay? A building's foundation is here. So this is the second floor, this is the third floor. So if the organization's foundation is strong, the other floors will be strong as well. And everything depends on the shareholder's mind. Okay. So the shareholder, that means the investor, how they want to recruit their first line of defense, second line of defense, it depends on that. So risk, if we just define risk management formally, it attempts to recognize, okay, and manage potential. So there are 2 points. One is you have to recognize it and you have to manage it. The potential and the unforeseen trouble spots, okay, that may occur when the project is implemented. So before starting a project, you have to identify the trouble points that you may face in implementing a project. Okay. Risk management identifies as many risk events as possible. You see, so as many, we are talking about as many. By the way, are you hearing, if you kindly respond to the messages, are you hearing me rightly? Or should, because today I'm not using my headphone. So do you like me to use my headphone? Brothers, are you there?
Sir, we are hearing you.
Okay, it's clear. Thank you. Thank you. Because I am not getting any response, so sometimes I feel myself sleepy. Okay. So thank you very much. So, so at every point, we should identify as many events as possible. So, for example, when you are taking the decision to come Bangladesh, okay, or if you want to take further education, for example, you want to take the PhD, okay, doctorate degree to some other country, UK, USA, okay. Then what you need to identify, you have to check, at the entry point, like we talk about the culture, the feasibility. So at every point, you have to identify the risk events. So if you, whether you want to complete doctorate degree from Bangladesh, because otherwise you have to leave Bangladesh, then go back to Somalia, then you will need to write for visa to USA or any other countries. And so I mean, from each of the point, so from the beginning, I mean, from writing a proposal to the ending, I mean, to until you get the certificate, you have to foresee, meaning you should when we are, I usually give very simple example. So when we drive the car, we try to see whether there is any traffic signal over there, right? So that means from a particular point, we want to look our future. So what is the, whether there is any bus, or if I want to overtake any car, what is the size of the car, and if I have the particular size of the road so that I can overtake that vehicle. So these are every point we should discuss about, and we should discuss with our parents and all the stakeholders relevant to that kind of project as well. And we have to take the impact, minimize their impact. Okay, so take some kind of actions so that we can minimize the impact. So some of you guys, mashallah, you're very sensitive to the religion. So some of you, or as a being, as a believer, we try to go to the Muslim countries, for example. So who prefer to go to the Muslim countries? Yes, we may contact with the universities in Muslim countries like Bangladesh, Malaysia, Pakistan, and or other, some other Muslim countries in the Middle East, or where there are less religious sensitivity. So, and then we manage the responses to those events that do materialize. So we identify the alternatives, whether we should go to the Bangladesh, whether we should go to Malaysia. So you may ask for the alternative opinion or the responses. So these are the responses, and then you ask for, it provides a contingency funds to cover risk events. So sometimes you see that now we in the we already got the experience from the COVID, so we know how to keep the contingency, because you are not, some of you might already passed your courses, but due to the university close, as the universities, almost all universities are closed and you are not able to sit for any exam, you could not complete the degree. So you have the living cost, additional living cost, you have the additional staying cost, and living expenses and food expense, etc. So and what will happen after a certain period of time, when the planes, or we got once all the way, the plane and everything runs, the cost might be higher because of the security issues. So these are some of the cover risk events that we actually need to materialize. Okay, and then we tell that risk management is a proactive approach. Okay, the what is the meaning of proactive rather than the reactive? Do you know? Is a pre. Okay, that means before event. Like nowadays we are talking about vaccine, right? So we are talking about the COVID vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. So this is the proactive approach. That means some of the countries, they have proactively locked down their countries even before identifying a single COVID patient. There's the proactive. And some countries, they took the reactive approach, meaning, oh, let's see if there is any patient, then we will close down. And that's why they have the deaths more. And we have already spread it in Bangladesh as well, and in many countries. So it is a preventive process. Risk management, we should keep in mind, the risk management is very important. Okay, and it must be a preventive approach. Ensure that surprises are reduced and that negative consequences associated with undesirable events are minimized. Okay, so our approach should be the undesirable events to be minimized. So if we could, for example, in Bangladesh, we made a lockdown. As you are in Bangladesh, you already know our environment. We give the lockdown and then we lose it, and again we give the lockdown. So it didn't work actually. Nowadays we have the death rate increasing. May Allah save us. Okay, so this is what we are talking about, risk management. So when we talk about risk event graph, it is associated with the you see pointer. Yes. This is the risk. Okay, this is the 3D graph. This is the cost, and this is the project life cycle. Okay, so the project life cycle goes from left to right. Okay, you see, and when you see, if we could identify any risk at the planning stage, you see, this is the planning stage. Okay, if we can identify risk at the planning stage, this is the cost graph. This is the cost graph. Okay, you see. So if we could identify, if we identify the risk at the planning stage, we see that cost is low. Okay, so even if chances of risk occurring is very high. Okay, so another thing, when we identify that chances of risk is little bit high, but if we identify after the execution, the cost graph become high. You understand? So it is all about the association. What are the association? The risk event graph shows the association. If for your exam purposes, if I tell you to explain the relationship, or if I tell you to explain risk event graph, you should write in this way, that the risk event graph is an association between risk association with risk, cost, and project life cycle. Okay, project life cycle, PLC. I just use a shorter version. So this is a relationship between these three variables: risk, cost, and project life cycle. So what is the association? Association is, if we can identify risk at the early point, I mean at planning point, we may incur low cost. Okay, even if the chances of risk is high. You see, this is the cost and this is the risk. So this is the chances of risk, this is the cost. So at this point, at execution, so at the time of delivery, you see, if we identify the risk at the only at the time of delivery, then what happens? The cost will be very high. That has happened in many of the project in the world, and many of the, even for COVID, the countries who take the countries who take the appropriate measure or proactive, as I said in the last slide, that if we could take the proactive measures, the country could save many people. But unfortunately, many of the countries took the reactive approach and they failed. That means many of the death and the cost is very high, and we had to lock down for a long time. Okay? So now come up with the risk management process. What do we understand about the process? So risk management process, as I already in our the last class, we have shown you the 5-step process. Now here we make it 4 steps. If you could remember, we just remove the planning stage. So at the after planning stage, we have identified